we're going to move on to our next speaker, and he is Brian Muir from Operation Food Search in Missouri. So, Brian, please take it away.
All right. Thanks, Jimmy. And again, I wanted to reiterate that it's great to be here, and thanks for inviting me to this. My approach today is just a little bit different than the other two, because I'm not going to get down too into the weeds and how to create a budget. I'm just going to, at this point, take a leap of faith that a lot of the folks that are on this call are sponsors. They are creating budgets, or they have created budgets. So I'm going to talk a little bit differently about the budget process, and how we're looking at it now, because we're into our 6th year of sponsoring the summer food program. And so on my slides here, we just have a few overview numbers, that are in the middle. This is kind of based on last year, of course, because I don't have anything for 2018 yet, because we're just getting started. So some of my slides will have a little bit of innovation sprinkled in for 2018, and one of those is that we do stationary sites, which is drop and go, and we also started a food truck route 2 years ago with one truck and trying to see how well it would do. Last year we expanded that to 3 full routes, and then this year we're expanding it a little bit further by working on Saturdays. Where I'm at, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, so we are a very urban setting. However, the way Missouri is set up, or St. Louis is set up in the state, the surrounding counties are they get into rural real quick. So we try to work around the city, through the county, and into surrounding counties. So we have different challenges with all the footprint, where we're at. The next slide here just kind of shows you an overview of what I'm talking about budget-wise. We are a non-for-profit. We're a food bank. So again, we may be a little different than most everybody, on the call. Our overall mission at Operation Food Search is to end childhood hunger and family food insecurity through our programs. So that is something that we put money and time and effort and fundraising and grant writing directly towards. So last year we did a fairly comprehensive analysis of our budget, of our costs, of our overall program costs, what we put into that overhead-wise, from the building itself to our walk-in and drive-in freezers that we have here. So as you look at this slide in the middle there, it just kind of goes overall for program support. We had just over $230,000 in SFSP reimbursements last year, but we also had $164,000 in private funding to make this program work. And we found that out slowly over the years, that if we want to do more than just serve food and have food available at locations for kids to eat, but give them a reason to come there, when programs may not exist, especially in some of these urban areas where we're at, that's why the food truck started. So we're going into the areas where children don't have any access to programming. And some don't even have easy access because of the streets and the highways and the crime, and frankly, and everything else. So we partnered with Missouri Foundation for Health, EPHT, it's Episcopal Presbyterian Health Trust, Express Scripts Foundation, and the No Kid Hungry Network, national and Missouri. There are a lot of grant opportunities out there if you just look. However, I will preface that with look all year. If you are now in May 23rd, program starting in a couple weeks, and now you're just now getting your budget together, and now just thinking about, oh my God, how am I going to pay for this? I would have to caution you to say it may be too late. But get after it if you haven't done it yet. But put some time into it in the rest of the year to make sure that you are prepared for next year. So we do run an after-school program, the CACFP, so we kind of run all year. So we're able to transition into one and out of the other within our time frame. But something else that we did here locally this year on our vans, the previous slides had a picture of it, and there's a picture of it on the bottom here, is we sold some sponsorships. We had some smaller organizations asking us how can they get involved? Can they send volunteers? Can they pack meals? Can they serve meals? Can they do all of these things? But any nonprofit out there will tell you that a lot of times we can do a lot more with your money than you can. So we asked for sponsorships to provide money and resources towards the program, and then we can get them involved later. So you kind of think about the NASCAR model. You know, we're going to put a series of logos on our vans this summer driving around the city. We also have a very large kickoff event. That's the other little flyer on there. That's going to take place in about a week and a half. We invite as many local and state elected officials as possible, grantors, donors, anyone involved in the program, even peripherally, to get them all in one place at one time so we can, you know, sell the message, tell them what's going on, tell them how this program works, and, you know, ask for their support. So we want to showcase your program, bring them in. Being that where we are, there are other major there are other major sponsors in St. Louis Department of Human Services, St. Louis County Department of Human Services for two. I don't care what site a child goes to as long as the child goes to a site and finds a meal. So we do promote the 877-877 number pretty hard as well. So that's our mission, is just trying to serve as many meals as we can and get the participation rates up as high as we can. So what I would say is, to be alliterative, partners, partners, partners. Work with your partners, not necessarily for them. Don't have them work for you. Work with them. The St. Louis County Library System in here, we were in 7 locations last summer. We're in 9 this summer. A couple of them were being renovated, so we couldn't get in. Like the previous speaker talked about, there was an issue, a community concern. We were wasting meals. They weren't serving enough. That goes right to your budget. You send out 50 meals, they serve 35, throw 15 in the garbage. What happens? You're eating 15 meals, and that becomes problematic really quick. So we created a solution. We partnered with No Kid Hungry on a grant, and we bought a bunch of refrigerators, put them in all of the sites. We now require those sites to have refrigerators and other ones too, and if they don't, we try to figure out a way to get them a refrigerator, something to cool their food with, so there are no leftovers. There are no wasted. So if we give them 50 meals, they serve 35, they can put 15 in the fridge and wait till tomorrow. It works out very well for us to keep our budget as close to that zero mark as possible. And again, with being in a big group like that, the county library might not be the most traditional setting for food, but it worked. It slowly worked over the years, and we served almost 10,000 meals just in the libraries last summer. So it's a great partnership. The kids love it. The library loves it. The parents love it, especially when they can get out of the heat of the day into the air conditioning. A little bit more on our mobile program. That is a huge budget concern, as you may kind of think. You might be sitting there saying, well, how the heck did you buy those vans or pay for this or that? Because that's going to be a whole heck of a lot of money up front. And the reimbursement rate of last year's $377 isn't going to cover that. Well, you're right. It's not. So we could not do this without a great partner in our vendor. Of course, we're a vended meal site like the previous speaker, and we had to go out to bid and accept, the lowest responsible bidder. And this was Food for Good. I'll tell you, Pepsi, Food for Good. They are a fantastic partner. They helped us get this off the ground. We use their vans. They have 2 vans that deliver all of our stationary locations, and then we have another 3 vans that do our mobile meals routes. These routes run like a bus stop throughout the city, stopping every 20 minutes at a place. They drive to the next one, stop, drive to the next one, stop. We purchase the meals individually at a little bit higher rate for those stops, but we don't pay for the driver. We don't pay for the van, we don't pay for the gas, we don't pay for the insurance. We're buying all of that through the meals served. So it's kind of a unique model, but it's really working out for them, or they wouldn't continue to do it. And it's working out for us because we don't have to outlay all of that expense up front. One thing is kind of neat with them, though, is that we do work with them in our building, being that we are a food bank. I can put aside a certain square footage of our warehouse and of our walk-in cooler, which is actually a drive-in cooler and drive-in freezer, just for them to move food in and out of here. You know, we've got semi-docks and all that stuff. So being that we're a sponsor and our vendor kind of works out of our building, we're able to stay on top of them pretty well because their city manager has it. We give them a desk here too. So again, it's a very unique partnership, but it works out very well. And we've partnered with some of the other area things here. You can see some healthcare agencies, a few credit unions, and the St. Louis Public Libraries, which again, if you know anything about St. Louis, it's a different entity than the St. Louis County Library System. So we have to have a different partnership model, you know, there. And here we go. The last thing, again, with my partners talk about is how do we get this done? How do we deliver these meals? How do we do that? I have a coordinator and basically two coordinators, a manager and a coordinator that run this program. But we have these 3 vans running. We have these the 2 other stationary trucks going. We have to monitor these sites. This year we're over 70 locations. So we have a partnership, which is part of our budget process, with Equal Heart, which is an AmeriCorps organization. Last year we brought in 15 members. This year we're bringing in just over 20. I think it's 21 members this year. They work with us to provide activities at these mobile stops. We rely on our stationary locations, which are buildings like the libraries or the Boys and Girls Clubs or the Salvation Armies of the world, to have the programming themselves. On these mobile routes, we have to create that programming ourselves. So again, that's another budgetary concern. So that's something that we fundraise for. We actually fundraise, for the AmeriCorps team to come here too. So this is why we think about this all year long. We can't think about this in the last 2 weeks of May. But with that partnership, we're able to provide an activity at each one of these mobile stops by having a team of AmeriCorps members following each one of those routes and kind of leapfrogging through the route system. So we have personnel at each one of the stops before the van gets there. It's 1 van and then 2 teams of AmeriCorps. And I can explain that in much greater detail. If anybody ever wants to know and would contact me directly, that's perfectly fine. But we don't have a whole lot of time here to really go into the logistics of how that happens. But last year we also wanted to try to work on the summer slide a little bit and bring in some of the the summer educational opportunities along with those AmeriCorps and the activities. Again, another budgetary concern. How are we going to pay for that? Well, I was able to find a grant through the American Literacy Association, and they gave us gently used books that come out of the school libraries that they kind of turn in once a year before they get their new books. And we were able to provide over 5,000 books to children, as you can see some of those pictures there. It's a really great partnership. It worked out really well. This year we've extended that partnership into a big volunteer activity to clean the books, and we've already received 4 pallets full of books, which I don't even know how many books there are, to tell you the truth, because we haven't unpacked them yet, but it is a lot. But it goes into all of the different things that you want to think about when you're promoting your program. To promote your program, it's going to take money. It's going to take more money. I mean, in all reality, it's going to take more money than the $377 that you're being allowed on reimbursement for the meals, unless you are buying those meals at a fantastic rate, because there's not a whole lot of margin there. Everybody knows that. Everybody understands that. So it's what it is. The rate isn't going to change. Well, it changed obviously every year by a few cents. But get into your fundraising ahead of time. If, in fact, you want to promote and grow your program and increase participation, a lot of times, like the other speakers have said, you need to create a why. you need to create, why do these kids want to come out? Why do they want to come out of their homes? Why do they want to come to your food van? Give them a reason. Your participation will increase. It's a lot of fun when it actually works out well that way. And this year we worked really hard on not necessarily increasing our sites, but we are working hard on doing what we do better at those locations to increase participation. More sites doesn't always equal more meals if your sites aren't, participating very well. The final thing on here, which it won't work on here, so I'm not going to do it, but we have a video, 2 videos actually. One's a promotion about the program itself, and then one we did at the end of the summer last year to promote 2017 and kind of wrap it up. I encourage everybody to go out to YouTube and look up Operation Food Search, and you can see both of those videos along with some other ones that we have. But it did cost money to put those videos together, but they're great promotional opportunities when you're talking to elected officials, legislators, local mayors, senators, those type of folks who, they understand the program, they've heard of the USDA, everybody wants to feed kids, but they don't really get it. These things are kind of, it's a compact little item that they can watch for 3 minutes and have that big aha moment, and hopefully they will get behind you and your program. So that's what I'm going to contribute today. I hope that was useful. I didn't get into a whole lot of numbers, but I just kind of got into the whys and the hows a little bit there. So thank you all for listening.